Hey everyone, it's Thomas here. So today we're going to talk about the BenQ EW3280U. Man, why do they have to make the name so long? Monitor. And you're probably wondering, so Thomas, what happened? I thought this is Thomas in stereo. Did it become Thomas in monitor? And there's two reasons why I said yes. Number one, it's because I want to try something else once in a while. I like to branch out a little bit. But the second thing, which is the most important, is because they told me it has one of the best speaker for a computer monitor. It has a 2.1 system, meaning it has a built-in subwoofer. Now that definitely got me quite curious. So that's why I said yes. So before we continue, let me just put the specs up on screen. Now for me, as far as I'm concerned, the most important is 4K, has HDR, and has a very good built-in speaker. So after having spent a month with this monitor, I can understand, okay, the speaker is definitely something worth talking about. I can see this monitor being a good solution for some of you. Well, not all of you, but some of you. And definitely, I'll touch on the sound at the very end. Now, reviewing this monitor really brings back memories because at one point, I actually owned a computer store. So I'm very comfortable when it comes to computers, used to build them, sell them. Well, these days, anybody can build them, right? Next, for those of you who don't know, I've been shooting weddings for about 15 years as a hobby. So I edit on computer frequently. So I have an idea what to look for in a monitor when it comes to photo editing. Not professionally, but casual editing. Next, I'll talk about this monitor from a gaming perspective. At one point, I was actually really into games. My record was playing 72 hours nonstop. And then I passed off for 24 hours, man. But yeah, I spent a lot of time playing games. And funny, for those of you who don't know, I'm an audiophile. I'm really into stereo. So it's interesting for me to talk about the stereo performance of this monitor. So before we begin, I got two funny stories to tell. You see this rubber-ish thing? I found it in the box and I'm like, you know, my audiophile instinct kicked in. I'm like, wow, this is some kind of isolation pad. It must be there to reduce the vibration of like the speakers, the sub or whatever. And I was trying my best to figure out where it would go on the monitor. Finally, I gave up, look in the manual, and then turns out this is a remote control holder. It's like, what? Really? A remote control holder. And while I was looking at the manual, while I was reading it, I noticed the part where they highlight this button. So I keep pressing that button and nothing happens. And I'm like, what's wrong? Then I keep reading the manual. Turns out that was just a logo. I mean, who highlights a logo in their manual? Really? Anyway, I feel silly trying to press on the logo. Anyway, so one thing I'll say that is really impressive for the monitor is the menu navigation. You have this joystick at the back. And with that one joystick, I can go everywhere in the menu and it's intuitive. I gotta give it to BenQ, like A+, man. Heck, man, all the other monitor companies, they should learn from BenQ on how to create an intuitive menu. Really good. So at 800 USD, it's definitely not cheap. And it is not a monitor for everyone. For example, if you're a hardcore gamer and you need your 144 Hz refresh rate, then no, this one is at 60 Hz, it's not for you. Now for somebody like me, especially during this pandemic time, I had to learn to play Minecraft so that I can bond with my kids. I noticed there's no motion blur, there's no trailing. So for a game like Minecraft, I think it's okay. The only problem is that every time I play Minecraft, after about 45 minutes, I gotta go throw up, man. I'm too old for this. The games that I play are like Ages of Empire 2. These days I pick up League of Legends because of my kids. And for those games are great because when you're playing at 4K, you see a lot more information than 1080p. So for those of you who have never experienced 4K playing games, you should give it a try. So for photo editing, I've been doing this for about 15 years. Photography is one of my hobby, one of my passions. So I shoot a lot of weddings. And I make some albums during this time. Now, for me, the monitor, what's really important is that what I see on the screen matches what comes out in print. And the good part is I have this DMP printer at my place, so I can use it to judge, okay, how far off I am. Now, ideally, if you're a professional, yes, you'll calibrate your screen. You can get yourself maybe a spider to do it. But in this case, what I noticed, if I choose this REC 709 setting on the monitor, it's a bit dark. I have to boost the brightness a little bit. I felt that it was close enough to what came out from my DNP printer. So for me, man, I don't even need to use the spider to calibrate my screen. So I thought that was really good. All right, next let's move on to the sound. And I think that's what's most important for me when I got this monitor, because they asked me to evaluate it because of my stereo channel. They probably didn't realize they sent it to an audio file, but it's okay, BenQ, don't worry about it. I'll use common sense when evaluating it. And I'm not going to compare it to desktop speakers or $10,000 speakers. It doesn't make sense if I did that. So I would say this. Let's start with the areas of opportunity where it can improve on. I notice if I push the volume to the max and with certain frequency, very, very low frequency, I can hear a slight distortion. Doesn't happen all the time, but I noticed that it can happen depending on the volume I'm setting at. Well, the top end, in terms of the treble part, it doesn't distort. Even at max volume, it doesn't have a problem. Now, having said that, the good part is that there are 5 DSP settings. I just spent an afternoon playing around with the DSP settings. You can get rid of that so-called distortion that I'm talking about, depending on the DSP setting you're choosing. Well, of course, you're going to get less bass, but it depends on what's important for you. Now, it can get loud, but it's not like a computer speaker where it can get really uncomfortably loud, which is okay. And when you compare it to a regular monitor, man, the regular monitor speakers is like a mosquito buzzing when you compare it to this BenQ monitor. So there is a lot of clarity, there is weight in the bass region, and it doesn't feel like you're listening to a cell phone speaker, for example. Now, of course, if I were to put on my audiophile hat, I can talk about, the dip in the mid-range and blah, 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 but that is not the point. Recently, my Yamaha speaker, that's my computer speaker for the last 20 years, died on me. And before that, I never had a proper stereo system on my desk. Even though I have a lot of stereo gear at my place, I never bothered putting it on my desk, because on my desk, I just listen to music. I don't go into critical listening, so I really don't care. But because at the time, the monitor I had, the speaker on it is just so weak that I had no choice but to bring in a full stereo system on my desk. So that's why I got the PMC there right now. I got a very nice integrated amp. But I'll tell you this, if I bought this BenQ at the time, when my Yamaha speakers died on me, I won't have that urge to bring in a real stereo system. Of course, now it's too late. I'm spoiled, right? With the PMC, it sounds fantastic. So for somebody who wants it for casual use, it is loud enough, it's clear enough, and it really just depends on what you want. If you're somebody who wants to listen critically, then yeah, get a real speaker. But if you're like me, who just want something to watch YouTube, for example, then this is adequate. All right, so let's wrap it up at this point. I'm going to share with you what I think about HDR. And I have to say, it is quite impressive. And for those of you who are still stuck in the Stone Age, never try HDR at your home, never try 4K monitor at your home, you should actually give it a try. At least a 4K, if not HDR. Now, colors become more vibrant when I enable HDR, and the built-in sensor helps optimize the HDR content. It brightens the dark areas without overexposing the bright areas. Here, what I'm showing on screen is the difference between when I enable HDR and when I disable HDR. So I'm sure just by looking at this demo, you can understand, wow, if I watch a movie with HDR enabled, it is just a more rich experience compared to if I don't enable it. All I wanted to do in this video was just to give you an idea as somebody who edits videos, who does casual gaming, and who watches YouTube, what to expect with a monitor like this. Now, I wish I went to 4K a bit earlier. Did you know that if you use the window button and the left and right button on your keyboard, you can actually split your screen easily? It's like, wow, when I found that out, I'm like, oh my goodness, I probably don't even need dual monitors. So with that said, let's end the video with a sound demo. I'm going to compare this BenQ to another monitor, which I won't name, with its built-in speaker. All right, see you guys next time.
Two fires, movement so graceful. Wildcat in the jungle with dangerous claws. Movement she anticipates, a sight is set on her prey. Like stars in the darkest night, crystallize, fascinate. If you wanna stay alive, if you don't wanna be her prey, don't stand in her way. Run, run, run away. Crystallize, 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 watching her prey. Crystallize, 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 fascinate. Eyes glow like two fires, movement